Hello, everybody. Welcome to Scientology Peeling the Onion. My name is Mark Fisher, and I'm here with my co-host,
G'day, everybody. My name is
Janis
Janis
Gillham
Gillham
Grady.
Grady, and I have been on vacation, and I'm happy to be home again. My dogs gave me the greatest welcome home I've ever had, just jumping all over me and crying, and it was quite a sight and sound. Anyway, I'm happy to be back and continuing on with peeling the onion.
That's right. Now, just you may have noticed, we have a new intro video, but also we've shortened our name from Our Scientology Stories Peeling the Onion just down to Scientology Peeling the Onion, because we've been doing this now for almost a year, and I think people know who we are and that we're a little bit different. It just makes the title a little bit shorter and easy for people to remember. But the address is still the same. You can still, if you're subscribed to our channel, you don't have to do anything. All we did was just change the name. And if you haven't subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. We really appreciate that. And I wanted to do this video and welcome Janis back. I wanted to mention too, we're going to continue to do videos where we tell people stories about their time in Scientology, about the abuses of Scientology, and we're going to get those interviews out and get those stories told. And then every once in a while, we'll be doing live streams where our viewers can chat with us and we will answer questions and that type of thing. But that's what our channel is concentrating on, is the stories. That's what we're here for, the history and the stories, and the people, and give them a platform where they can tell what happened to them and what's going on in their life and that type of thing. So we just wanted to mention that right off the bat. So we're glad that Janis is back here. And without further ado, Janis, why don't you tell everybody why you went to Florida, what was going on and who was on your trip and all that, and I'll start showing photographs.
Okay. Well, I originally had planned this vacation to visit Kerry Gleeson because I knew his days were coming to an end. But after I booked my ticket and everything, within a week of that, he ended up passing away much sooner than everyone thought. So I changed my ticket to the week when they were going to have his celebration of life so I could be there. And that's the actual purpose of why I went there. But since I was going such a long distance and I have a lot of friends down in Florida, Cheryl, my traveling buddy, and I decided, well, let's go and do 2 weeks in Florida so we can visit other friends as well and then not have to deal with, why didn't you come see us? So that's what we did.
And you're talking about Cheryl Detchis. She was a longtime Sea Org member and Scientologist, and then Kerry Gleeson, who was a famous, executive director of Scientology and a longtime Sea Org member. And he basically left in the early 1980s, but he still remained friends with you and after we got out of the Scientology as well. And we were sorry to see that he passed away so soon. But yeah, that was the whole reason for the whole thing.
Yeah, and I was very thankful that I went last year and I actually got to spend some time with him. I spent 3 days with he and his family. So I was thankful I had that, and that I also was able to go to his celebration of life.
Now, you first went to Orlando, Florida, right? And then from there, you visited a friend there.
Yeah. So Cheryl and I, and just so everyone knows, Cheryl's husband died about 3 months before my husband. So Cheryl and I at that point decided we'd make our own memories together. And so we are traveling friends. We went to Greece together 2 years ago. We did a 7-week road trip around the US together last year. And then we also went to Portugal, Canaries, Morocco, and Spain on a cruise together. We're doing Africa in July, and then in October, we're doing a Panama cruise. So that's where it's like, if one of us needs to travel, we call the other one and says, hey, let's go do this. So that's what we're doing. So we decided we'd travel again and go to Florida. We know the exact same people. We flew into Orlando and we stayed with a friend there who we were in the Sea Org with. Her name is Jan. And she picked us up, and we actually drove from Orlando to the East Coast to the beach. And it was a nice surprise when she starts driving down the beach. I'm like, I've never driven down the beach before. And there's all these hundreds of cars with people sitting out in their lawn chairs with their cars or barbecuing, right? It saves having a drag, drag your chairs and umbrella and surfboards and everything. You just drive it to the beach. Anyway, so that we went to the beach, and I put video of it on my Facebook page.
Mhm.
And so we just kind of relaxed, and we binged watched Homeland, which great series. We were just going to watch one. We ended up 5 hours later. We're on season 6. I was like, oh, we
Oh my
better.
gosh. Had you not seen that before?
I had seen a little of it, but then as like stuff starts
Oh
coming
yeah,
back,
yeah,
and it
yeah.
just
It
gets
gets
better and
addictive.
better.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
And then
So
you went to Clearwater, or what? How did it go? You went from
yeah,
Orlando, and then where'd you go?
we rented a car and we drove down to Clearwater, and we visited with a bunch of friends in Clearwater, and we stayed with Claude. Claude actually got into Scientology in Columbus, Ohio, the same time as Paul and Jean. Jean and Claude actually went to high school together, and then when they were at the Columbus mission, Paul joined them, and the three of them joined the Sea Org together. So there was Claude, the remaining one of the trio, with his wife and Cheryl and I, and we spent like 4 days hanging out with them. And I put out that I was going to be in downtown Clearwater. And so a bunch of old friends showed up and we had dinner. And this is some new friends. There's Laurie and Cheryl and John. And they heard I was coming. So I met with them. And Cheryl and Laurie joined us for dinner. Oh, and John did
And this
too.
and this is down on Cleveland Street and Fort Harrison, in that area in downtown Clearwater, not far from the Fort Harrison Hotel, right?
Yes. And while I was sitting at that restaurant, I turned around and I looked at the walls and the doorways to those buildings, those stores there. And I went,
Yeah,
oh, this is right where my dad had his last store,
yeah.
because he'd been on the other side of Cleveland, then he'd moved over into this building. And I remember seeing a video of my dad cutting a ribbon for the opening of Peter Gillham's health food store in Clearwater when they'd moved. So that was a nice kind of, oh, yeah, this is right where he was. Anyway, there's me and Laurie.
That's Lori.
And
Lori Plays is her channels, right? Her channel's Lori Plays.
yes. Yeah. And she actually later on, she was out doing her rounds of the building, and she saw me going by and told me that someone had gotten stuck in traffic, Sarasota, Jerry, and he'd gotten stuck in traffic. He finally arrived. So we went back around so that I could say hello to him. I didn't want him to have driven so far to meet me and then he'd missed it because of traffic. But
Yeah, and
anyway, yeah,
Lori,
so that was Laurie. She's a
and well,
sweetheart.
and Lori's channel, Lori's Place, she's out there doing what they call them audits in front of these Scientology buildings, and she's out there almost every night. I've watched several of her videos and stuff, and she walks around and runs into people and talks and stuff like that. But she's had stuff happen to her, like her car tires, like just recently, a few days ago, there was nail in her tire, so
Oh, I didn't
she's
know
not too
that.
welcome and stuff. Oh yeah, she's not too welcome there, obviously, from the Scientology crowd. But no, she's really nice, and her videos are fun. And so if you haven't watched her, go to Lori Plays, subscribe to her channel.
Yeah, yeah, very, a very caring person.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. And so this is a bunch of us all sitting down for dinner at the restaurant. We went to the restaurant called Tequila. And it had very good Mexican food. And while we were there was probably about 3 people that we noticed had cameras on us. So, standing back towards the building, they had their little cell phones up, pretending to be, you hold it in a certain position, you pretend you're texting. It's pretty obvious what you're doing.
Yeah. Now
So,
it looks like you're right in the middle of the street. Is that where you are, or where are these
well,
tables at?
what they did is Cleveland used to be the main drag down to the beach.
Right.
And they actually moved the main drag over to Drew Street. So that's where all the traffic down to the bridge goes to go down to Clearwater, to the island, the beach area. So what they did is they took half of the street and turned it into patio.
Oh.
And it's now a walking street, but it's like people complain about how dead Clearwater is. Well, if you cut off the main street where the main businesses were and you move it a block over, so there's no road traffic. Well, what do you expect?
Right. Right.
Yeah, because
So,
I
so you are
remember
sitting on the patio. So that's why it looks like you're in the street, because it's actually a
we
patio.
we're in the old street that's been converted to a patio.
Okay.
Yes,
I got it.
yes. But I remember in the old days in Clearwater in '76, this street was backed up traffic of people trying to get down to the beach. And of
Yeah.
course, all those businesses would get some sort of business of people stopping on the way down there.
Right. Right.
Yeah. And there's Mark Bunker. He's the city councilman. He came and actually had dinner with us. In that other picture, my head is blocking him, so you can't see him there. But he's the vice mayor right now, and he's running for re-election of city councilman. And he's got some great plans and been involved in some very good stuff to help Clearwater, become alive again.
Yeah, and he's yeah, everybody, he's got a website and all that. If you want to donate to his campaign, you can there. But he's doing a lot. I mean, he's basically a thorn in the side of Scientology. The fact that he's there, they don't like it at all. They're really trying to get him voted out of office in this reelection. So if you want to give him any support, you can go to his website. Just look up Mark Bunker, City of Clearwater, and I'm sure you can find it and support him, because he definitely deserves that support.
Yeah, he does. He's a good guy.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. So, this is a little out of sequence because this is actually when we went to the beach. That Cheryl putting her feet in the ice cold water, and it was cold.
Yeah, you said it was cold in Florida, right?
Oh
While you
yeah.
were there.
Well, the water was cold.
Yeah.
We actually
And that's the same
had some
area.
nice weather. Yeah, there was some nice weather that day. We had some rain in Clearwater, but generally it was better than Nevada. It was warmer than Nevada.
Yeah, we're cold right now, and we had rain while you were gone. So we love rain, but it's not normal weather here. Well, I guess
Yeah,
for this time of the year it is, but people
it
think of
is.
Nevada being hot, but it's nice
Right.
right now.
But the ski season, they're going to have a great time up in Mount Charleston. They just had an avalanche yesterday.
Yeah, there's
Lots of
tons of
snow.
snow up there. Yeah.
So
These
this
are
is
just
the
photos I put together. Go ahead.
so this is the backyard of the where we were staying when we were in Clearwater, and he was my first visitor when I arrived there. So I just liked that photo of him just standing there. He came
That's
up
right.
close. Yeah, and that's like a snake bird or something like that. And he just sits in the pond. They don't have any alligators in that pond. Oh, and then
Yeah, go ahead and tell people where we went next, because it's going into your next
yeah,
thing.
next we went down to Sarasota to the Ringling Brothers Museum. And I remember in '77 when I was in Clearwater, taking a bunch of other messengers who had kids, and we all went to the Ringling Brothers Circus then. And so it was nice to go down and actually see the museum and the home of John Ringling, and just kind of reestablish what the circus was all about. As a kid, I remember there was a circus that came to town, and my mother, who had always wanted to run off and join the circus, went and met the circus people. And we came home from school one day, and there's these strange kids in our backyard. And they're playing on our swings and everything. And we're like, Mom, who are these people? Oh, those are the children of the circus. They've never lived in a home. They live in caravans. So I invited them over.
Yeah, and
That
just
was
so
my
people
mother.
know, yeah, and just people know, the Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus was the most famous circus. It was the Ringling Brothers Circus, and then there was the Barnum and Bailey Circus, and then they merged, right? So this was
Yes.
their headquarters was in Sarasota, and they no longer have circuses that tour the country anymore. But like you said, there's a museum there, right? And they've got all sorts of stuff there. That's a picture,
Yeah.
like an old timey picture of the elephants, parading into town, right?
Yeah, that was on the wall of the museum. And I thought that is just a perfect picture showing the circus coming into town.
Yeah.
And these here, there was a gentleman called Howard, who spent 50 years building a miniature of the circus, and they wouldn't let him put Ringling Brothers or Barnum and Bailey on the tents or any of the trucks or anything. So he put Howard. He eventually ended up moving this all over into the museum. And so you can go through it and it just shows everything, and it's all so alive. And even inside the trailers, the cooking trailer, they've got little dishes and little, everything there. It's just incredible what this guy and his wife produced.
This is the same thing, right?
The circus. This is the same thing. So, these are all little dolls. The wife made a comment in her interview. She said, I liked playing with dolls, and I was lucky enough to marry a man who liked to play with dolls too. Anyway, and these are just some photos I took as we went through, and they used to have at the circus, they had the side shows, and they had the acrobats and the horses and the elephants and the lions and tigers and popcorn. Yeah. So it was just fun memories going through that. And then this is the house that John Ringling built, and he only lived in it, I guess, for a year with his wife. He lived in it longer, but his wife only lived a year there before she passed away. And the main entrance is actually the other side. That's the main entrance.
Wow, it's beautiful.
You approach it from the bay, and it just, very elaborate inside, and furnished, from the turn of the century type of thing, which a little gaudy for me, right? But yeah. Yeah. And the ceilings were just, this is ceiling. And then there's the three of us, Pam, myself in the middle, and Cheryl on the left.
Pam is Claude's wife?
Yes, Pam is Claude's wife. She was never in Scientology.
Right.
But when they did the renovations at the Fort Harrison, she happened to be working doing interior design and carpets and stuff. So she actually used to work with the Scientologists to do the renovations and supply them with carpet and things like that.
That's wild. The house is right on the water too, which is really nice.
Yes.
And I like this the tile or whatever outside. It's really
nice. It kind of had that Great Gatsby kind of feel to it.
Yeah, exactly. That was the ornate sort of style back in those days. And is that like a boat landing or something? Is that what?
Yes, that's the boat landing where all the guests would arrive to go up the back.
That's great.
Because that's actually the front. So then after Clearwater, and after going around the Fort Harrison and the old gray moss replacement of the service building, and the sandcastle, we then went down to Sarasota and stayed with Roger. So that's me in the front with Cheryl and Roger Weller.
Roger, you got to give his full name.
Roger Weller. And we actually have interviewed him a couple of times on our channel. And I've promised him we'll do a live. There's Roger, Scientology and Rock and Roll.
Yeah, that's on our channel. I'm going to put a link down below in the description. You should watch this. Roger has amazing stories. He is the Forrest Gump of Scientology. What I mean by that is anybody who was anybody in rock and roll or music in the 60s and 70s, and even going on further than that, Roger has met them and has wild stories about being around them. He's just an amazing person, Roger Weller. And so it's well worth watching. We've got 2 interviews with him. This is one of them right here.
Yeah, Roger used to own some leather stores back in the 60s, 70s, when the fringe jackets were the big thing, and the stars used to come in and buy his jackets and things like that. So yeah, he's got incredible stories. Anyway, so we spent 2 days with Roger.
So you're down here on the beach. Is that where this picture's taken?
Yes. Oh, what's it called?
It looks really cold.
It was cold. It was cold. And the sand is like crystal sand. It's very smooth and powdery. But I've forgotten what beach it was. But yeah, it was cold, but it was nice to get out there and get grounded on the beach.
This is that's
Cheryl and Roger.
Same thing, right?
Yeah.
And that's the sand you're talking about?
Yeah, it's real powdery, very fine.
Same
That's just
place.
some photos I took. Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful. This is the east coast, sorry, the west coast of Florida. So this is looking west towards the
Yeah.
Gulf
So
of Mexico. Yeah,
this is the Caribbean.
yeah. Well, no, it's
Yeah.
not the Caribbean, it's the Gulf of Mexico.
It's
But
the
yeah,
Gulf of
yeah,
Mexico. Right.
right, right.
Yep. Because it's too high
Yeah,
for the Caribbean. Yeah.
that's a
Yeah. And that
great
was this.
sunset.
Yeah. Oh, this is in the banyan trees just across from the Ringling Brothers house. And oh, we went when we were with Roger, we went to the Shelby Gardens, and it's a garden of incredible orchids. However, when we went there, the orchid display room hall was closed. So we got to wander the gardens and see other things instead.
Yeah, you
And
posted these photos on Facebook, and somebody asked me if that was the Shelby Gardens, and then I was glad to see that that you somehow you responded and said that it was because
yes,
they I guess they've been to that area. This is in the Sarasota area, correct?
yes, it's in Sarasota. And Roger had a yearly membership, free for him with the membership and free for a guest. And then for an extra guest was only $11. So it was a
Here's
great
your tree
activity.
hugging.
Tree
You were, get-
hugging, yes.
you were getting your energy flow from the tree, right?
I was, and it felt so nice to hug that tree.
I don't know about you, but my dad, after I got out of Scientology, I was up in Washington State. That's where he lived, right? And he got, he goes, hey, watch this, go hug this tree. They had these big trees, right? And literally, when you hug the tree, he goes, can you feel like a life force from the tree? I said,
Yeah.
yeah, you can. I mean, you literally can feel like the life force of the tree. It's not airy fairy, you know what I mean? I was pretty wild, right? Was it the same for you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, those trees are alive, and you definitely feel that energy and communication from them. They don't have to be like in the old movies where they're actually talking, but you can feel it.
Yeah.
Yes. These here, I actually took some closer pictures where it's like a whole nother little flowers inside the middle.
Hmm.
And it was just
Oh, okay.
it was just fascinating. Yeah. And that's Roger
There's
and Cheryl taking a
Cheryl.
rest.
Oh, this pond was really nice too with the fish.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it reminds me, I didn't have it as nice, but when I was at the Gold Base, when I was married to my wife Julie, before they tore up all the lodges, we lived right down by the dining hall, and the people who had lived in our unit or our motel, whatever, our room before, they'd started to build like a Japanese garden with a pond, but they never finished it. So we went ahead and finished it. We put in water, we put in a waterfall, we put in a pump, we got it all decorated. We had a bamboo fence put in, and it was fantastic. I love that thing. And Miscavige, he couldn't wait to get rid of it when he goes, that's going to have to go when we renovate this place. I went, yeah, I
But
understand.
I remember that you and Julie did a great job. It had a special feeling about it, very
Yeah.
soothing.
I
Yes.
love Japanese gardens. The first time I really saw one was up at Bonneview. Remember behind Bonneview? They put in, as part of the renovations of the house, this is before when Hubbard was still alive, and they had a Japanese gardener come in, and he did the one by the Star California, the swimming pool, and he did the one behind Bonneview. And I loved that one behind Bonneview. I like the one by the Star California too, but the one behind Bonneview, it was my favorite. And it's one of my favorite things to do when I go to a city is I'll see if they have Japanese gardens and I'll go see them.
Right. Well, I remember when that one at the Star of California was being done. It was being done at the end where the kiddie pool was. And I
Right.
remember watching this Japanese guy, and I had no concept of design or anything like that. But they've got this big crane there with these great big boulders. And he's like, position it. No, it can't go there. Move it over an inch. No, not right. Move it a half inch this way. And I was like, really? Just put the boulder down.
Yeah, it's really amazing. I mean, it's quite an artistic, design. I mean, it really was. And anyway, I love that thing. And I understand that when they tore down Bonneview and they got rid of the garden too. So it's not there
Oh,
anymore. But, at the Star California it is, but not behind Bonneview. I love that thing.
right.
Anyway, All right, here's the next
All
picture
right.
here. Let's go in here. Sorry, 1 second here.
Okay, so next stop after Rogers in Sarasota, we went to Venice. And this was a hike we did on Sleeping Turtle Hike. And it was a couple of mile hike, but we only saw one alligator as we were hiking, and I just took photographs of nature while we were hiking and walking their dog. And yeah, so as you'll just see a few of these pictures that I took, it was a pleasant walk. And then they took us that night. Before we could have ice cream, we had to go to the drumming circle.
Explain what a drumming circle is, okay?
Yeah, it was great. It was, these people are all gathering on the beach, and there's a group of like about 20, 30 people with bongos and drums, and they're just standing there just drumming away, and people get up in a circle and start dancing to the sound of the drums, and other people just sit around and chat. It was like they do it twice a week, and it was like a local community activity, and people hear about it and they come and they sit out there drumming and watch the sunset and have a good time.
That's
So
Roger,
that was
right? That's Roger right in the center there, right?
No, Roger wasn't with us. We were now with Holly and Carl Carlson at this point in
Oh, I
Venice.
didn't know that. I thought you were with Roger. I was thinking, if you were with Roger. No, it's Holly and Carl. Okay.
No, we left Roger behind in Sarasota, and this is from our walk along the beach. A bunch of painted coconuts, and that was the sun setting.
Beautiful sunset. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Always a nice sunset there. And then this is Judy Light. She's an artist. She used to be in the Sea Org. She was a registrar, and she'd been married to David Light, who later married Janet Light. Anyway, that's Cheryl on the left, myself in the middle, Judy, and her daughter, Kira, who was born in the Sea Org and is David Light's daughter, though David ignored her for many, many years because she chose not to be in the Sea Org. Anyway, we had breakfast with Judy and Kira, and that was a lot of fun, just kind of catching up. I hadn't seen Kira since she was a baby.
Wow.
And Judy had come out to Vegas for one of my reunions, and she's an artist, and she does paintings, and she's got certain characters that she does, and she sells them in a little building called The Cottage, where she's also got other artist work. And she does well. She makes a living as an artist, and it was a lot of fun. And she gave me two more pictures to go with my collection that I already have in my guest room.
That's great.
Okay, here we are with Holly and Carl. Me in the front, Cheryl on the left, Carl behind her, and Holly. And Carl and Holly.
Explain who Holly. This is Holly and Carl and Holly Carlson. Carlson. Explain who they were in Scientology.
Yes. Okay. So Carl was a commanding officer of the American Saint Hill organization, just the foundation. And so I knew him for a long time, or I knew of him because I'd see telexes going or talk about him. And Holly.
This was in the 1970s.
This was in the 1970s. Now, Holly, the first time I met her was 1973. The first time I came to America, she was the programs operator for Celebrity Center. So while I was visiting my mother, Holly comes over to go over her different programs to see what steps need to get done by my mother. And that's when I first met her. She was probably only 20 years old at the time. Anyway, so I've known them both since the early 70s, and I see them on and off. They come to my events, and when I go to Florida, I see them. Anyway, we spent 2 days with them, and we went on a river cruise.
Let me put on my 2 cents for them. Carl Carlson, after he was the CEO of Asho Foundation, he was brought up to to Clearwater, and he was the chief officer for the Flag Service Organization when it first hit $1 million in services and income. And then eventually he was the commanding officer of the Flag Service Organization for several years. He was very successful in that position. Holly was the commanding officer of Western United States in the late 1970s, and eventually came to Clearwater in management. And then she eventually became the commanding officer of the Flag Land Base, because you had not just the Flag Service Organization, you had the Estates Organization, you had all these different organizations. And so she was made the COFLB, or Flag Land Base. And that's where I got to know her, because we used to have what was called a coordination council that L. Ron Hubbard ordered, so that all the different organizations would be coordinated. And Holly was the chairman of that. Well, first it was the LRH personal communicator, who was John McGinley, but Holly then eventually was the chairman of that. And Carl would come, the commanding officers of all the organizations, and I used to come because I was the LRH communicator for Estates. And they are just fantastic people. I mean, they left in the early 1980s, and Carl started a whole other career after he left Scientology. He's highly educated in engineering, and he's just great. And Holly is amazing as well. She eventually got into hospice care, where she was dealing with people at the end of their lives. And, she's just an angel here on earth. And I can't speak highly enough about Carl and Holly Carlson. They are really fantastic people. Anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Well, let me add on Holly. When old-time SEAL members have been passing away, Holly has been known to go to them and help them and work with them, and deal with the hospice. When Kathy Kurataki was passing, I couldn't make it down there, so Holly went down there and handled everything. And, she was there with Mick. She just gets involved with everyone that she knew and even didn't know, and uses her training and knowledge to just help out. So you're right. They're both wonderful people, and they have actually both agreed to come on our show. So
that's great.
As time permits, we will have them on and interview them, and we can get more into what they're about and how they got in and why they left, and that type of thing.
That's right. Anyway, sorry, I interrupted you about your river cruise. Go ahead. Is this on the river cruise?
Yeah, this is the river cruise, where we got to see a whole bunch of alligators and different birds and things like that. It was fun.
Yeah, and then I asked you, hey, have you seen any alligators? And then finally you did, and you posted a picture.
Yeah, well, this alligator, you can see his tail's actually cut off at the end, because they get in fights among themselves. One of them had an arm missing, another one had part of the tail missing. They kind of beat each other up.
Yeah, and last time Carl and Holly were here, I asked them, because they like to kayak. They kayak like in the Everglades, all over the country. They like to RV, and they like to travel around in their kayaks too. And I asked them, I said, have you ever seen like alligators when you're out? Oh yeah, we see them all the time. I said, that would freak me out. I'd be so afraid of flipping over and getting caught in the water with the alligators. They're very brave.
Oh yeah, they're just oh yeah, there's alligators. Yeah, we go kayaking down here. The alligators might come over. It's like no big deal. It's an everyday thing.
Yeah. It freaks me out. I can't deal with it. That's just funny.
Yeah.
And is that a bird?
Yeah, I think that's a heron or something like that. I'm not a bird expert.
And then this is a little alligator, right?
That's a baby on a tree that's sticking out, an old tree. There's a baby.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to improve my camera so I can get better shots, because Holly got better shots than I did. I have to upgrade to a pro.
That's right. That's right. And then you actually went from there to the real reason why you were down in Florida. And how did you go? You went to Fort Lauderdale, or what was it?
Yeah, we drove from Venice. We drove across Florida to Fort Lauderdale, where we stayed with Louise Schechter. Louise has been on Tony Ortega's Telling Ship Stories, and she's actually going to come on ours as well. There's just not been enough time, but we'll get her scheduled in. And anyway, so Cheryl and I stayed with Louise, so that we could attend the celebration of life for Kerry Gleeson. And this is actually the cover for the tribute that you and I did, Mark,
That's right. The
with
video on
Mike.
our channel. Yeah.
Yeah, we did that with Mike, Rinda, and Ira. And because Mike had worked with Kerry as his assistant when we were on the ship. And Ira had worked with Kerry before when they were in Los Angeles together. And after Kerry left, Kerry set up a business where he was teaching administrative skills.
Right.
And Ira started working with him, and Jay Hurwitz and Ron Hopkins, a bunch of old timers. They all kind of got together and did this business, and it was all to help people administratively because Kerry knew nothing else. You know, he had been in Scientology since he was 19, and there he was in his 30s leaving, and he had a family he had to support. Anyway, so we did a tribute to Kerry, which was very, very much appreciated. When I was down there, Mark, the girls mentioned it again. What a nice job we did. So,
fantastic. Well, thank you. There's a link down below in the description to this video if you want to watch it. I highly recommend it. You're going to get a lot of information. Kerry was quite an individual, and you're going to hear some great stories. And that's Kerry there sitting outside his condo where they lived right at the end.
Yeah, and in fact, after the celebration of life, the next day we all went and hung out at the condo, and we sat out there on Kerry's chair.
I have photos. I have photos.
Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah. So that's Jill and I. Jill was married to Kerry. She was staff captain. She was like the first top in command of Scientology under Hubbard back on the ship. And she was a trained Class 12 auditor, NCS, and OEC, FEBC. And she and Kerry left together when, I think it was 1982 or 83, when the big COMEF.
83, yeah.
83, yeah, when the big COMEF happened, which, of course, we will cover that in another one of our series. Anyway, Jill and I have remained close, you know, for a long time now, with us both being out. They come visit me, and I visited them.
And Jill, she was known Jill Carlstrom, and she was Jill Dunleavy, right, for a while. And then
no,
not Jill Dunleavy.
No, that was Kimma.
Oh, sorry.
Jill's best friend was Kimma, and that was Kimma Dunleavy or Kimma Douglas. Jill had been married for a while to Alan Buchanan before she married Kerry.
Oh, okay. But her main name's Carlstrom, is that right?
Yes. Yeah, she came to the ship when she was 19 from Sweden. Well, she'd gone to St. Hill first and then Sweden. And we always joke there was one big storm we had, and she was the Commodore's steward at the time, and I was the messenger on watch. And I'm sitting outside the A-deck lounge, and the Commodore's inside having dinner, and Jill's across the other way, and the ship is just rocking and rolling and pitching. And someone didn't secure the chair and table to the deck. They secured them all together. So the ship took a pitch, and Jill comes sliding across the foyer and stops right next to me, dragging the other table and chair with her. It was just so funny.
That's funny. Jill's full of life. She's a lot of fun to be around.
Yeah, she is. And that's me with Neil Safadi. Neil was...
I'm sorry, to explain where you guys are at first, and then you know what I mean?
Okay, we're in Boca Raton in Florida, and this is a bar called The Irishman. Kerry's family was Irish. His dad had immigrated from Ireland and had his family. It was 4 girls and Kerry, and the rest of the family was pretty much still in Ireland. So they came over for this celebration of life. There was a lot of Gleesons everywhere, and Neil Safadi was on the ship with me, and he was actually in the Apollo Stars. He was the sax player, or one of the 2 sax players. So I've known Neil since I was probably 13 years old. Yeah.
He's also full of life. He's a lot of fun.
He is. So there's Hannah Eltringham. She came over. Hannah came over, and in the front is Spanky Taylor. And Spanky came from Los Angeles for the celebration of life. And Hannah got up. Hannah got up and talked. I got up and talked. And then there's a few other people, and a lot of Kerry's relatives all got up and talked. And there's no picture of me talking, but what I talked about was the time when on the ship, us girls had put together a basketball team, and we just kept losing and losing and losing. And then Kerry was finally, hey, I'll become your coach. So we fired Wendell Reynolds as our coach, and we hired, no money involved, but Kerry came on as our coach, and we still lost. but playing basketball under Kerry was a lot more fun than playing basketball under Wendell.
I can imagine.
That's what was so great about Kerry. He was always fun and games. He made life fun.
Yeah.
So, all right. So here is Neil on the left with Ira Shaloff. Ira was on our tribute to Kerry and talked, and he got up and talked. And that morning he just wrote down a poem that he read that afternoon. I mean, that's how great he is at poetry.
He was Kerry's one of his closest friends, right?
Yes, he was. And when Ira's son passed away, Kerry was right there for him, just like Kerry was when Paul passed. Kerry was calling me every day while Paul was in hospital, and every day afterwards, just to make sure I was okay. That's how good he was at caring for people.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
All right, and here, this is Jay Hurwitz. Jay was on the ship, and I had not seen Jay in like 50 years. So I think the last time I saw him was probably in 1972. And he married an English lady, and they moved to England. And even when he went to Florida to the Flag Land base there, I was gone by then, so I didn't see him when he was running the student program there again. So here we are outside of Kerry's favorite place, right there on the inlet where their new condo was. So it's nice to see Jay.
Let me fill in. Jay Hurwitz, for some of the old Scientologists and Sea Org members that are watching their channel, Jay Hurwitz is famous because he and John Horwich, they ran the Flag Executive Briefing Course training program, I guess in the late 70s. Was it on the ship? But when he later was brought back, and they did it again in Clearwater, where they brought executives from, in the 80s, they brought executives from all, organizations all over the world to become highly trained Scientology executives. And Jay Hurwitz and John Horwich, they were the two guys that basically ran that program.
Right. And when they were told to do things and so forth, and that weren't on policy, they walked.
Yeah.
And there went the whole program.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's Cheryl just kind of enjoying herself out there. I mean, that spot that Kerry picked as his favorite spot, it's so beautiful there.
And this is in Boca Raton?
Yeah, yes. And in the orange, that's Brooke. That's Kerry's oldest daughter, sitting there with Ira. Someone else was taking a picture of him, and I was on the side.
And Brooke was born in Scientology, in the Sea Organization. I remember when she was a baby.
She was born, the Flag Land base.
Yeah.
And there we are. I'll go from the back left to the front. Look, that's Louise Quirion on the left, Louise Schechter. And that's me next to her, Cheryl, and then Jeanette Barnes. Jeanette was on the ship with us, and Ira was on the ship
messenger?
with us. Jeanette? No.
Okay.
No, you're thinking Jeanette Alcock. You're thinking Jeanette Alcock.
No, I know that, but I was thinking Jeanette Barnes. She must have been in flag orders or something, because I just remember that name.
She was, she's Swedish, and she was mostly a telex operator on the ship, and she was also in West
how I knew her. Maybe that's how I knew her, because I worked in external comm later, and maybe there was some thing. I just remember that name. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, after she got pregnant, she moved and was put in West US with Wally Burgess, and she helped obtain the Manor, where Celebrity Center is, the Hollywood Inn you know, so she was very instrumental, and she lived at the Melrose. She lived everywhere in the LA area back in the 70s.
Hmm.
So yeah, she came over from Sweden, and then Ira, and then Jill in the front there, and Spanky. So everybody in this picture, except for Spanky, had been on the Apollo.
Right.
And I don't know
And this
where
is,
Jay was. Oh, Jay had already left, so he missed out on this photo. Now,
and then there's some
this
additional
picture
people.
here, these are our second Jenners, our second generation kids from us here. In the front, in the orange, is Brooke, Kerry's oldest daughter. And then in the middle and the back, on the left, that's Quinn, and on the right is Kinsey. Those two are twins. Those are Kerry and Jill's twin daughters. And then on the left, that's Susie Lewis. And I hadn't seen Susie since she was probably a year old. And so it was great to finally see her here as an adult, because I'd heard stories. She hung out a lot with Kerry's kids, but Susie is the daughter of Peter and Vicki Lewis, or Vicki Spears. And Vicki had been the commanding officer of Pub's organization in Los Angeles, and Peter, I always think of him as the commanding officer of LA Org for a while. Anyway, so she was their offspring, and she helped the Gleeson girls put together all the photographs and stuff like that for the celebration of life.
Wasn't there music too? Did you say? At the bar and everything? What did they do? People singing?
Yeah, well, Kerry's cousin Tim plays Irish songs. So he was up there performing all these great Irish songs, and everyone was joining in and having a good time with him.
Everybody, people drinking Guinness.
Yeah, yep, people were drinking, and then there were shots of whiskey given out to all the guests. Of course, I took one sip and then let Jeanette finish it.
It's an Irish wake. I mean, that's how they do it in Ireland, you know.
Yeah.
And anyway, yeah, Kerry was a great guy. So that was basically your trip. So sum up, how was it overall? And what are your feelings about it?
You know, I love connecting up with people. And as I said to you today, this year is the year of connection. So it was fun for me to reconnect and make new friends and see old friends to start off my year. And I'm going to have to just keep doing that, and have people come and see me, or else I'm going to go see them. So beware,
Right.
I might show up on your doorstep.
Yeah, and I got to start getting out too. I'll be doing that again soon too. I wanted to mention, you talked about being on the Apollo. We've got Janis. Janis has written 2 books: Commoner's Messenger, Book 1, Child Adrift in the Scientology Sea Organization. That's Janis there with L. Ron Hubbard when she was 12, 13 years old. And then this is Book 2, and this was Riding Out the Storm with L. Ron Hubbard, and that's Janis with Hubbard on a photo shoot. And both of those books are available on our merchandise site. You can just go ahead and click on a store. You can get autographed copies of the book from Janis, and she'll personalize them to you and send them to you. And anyway, if you're interested in the book,
Yeah.
they're down there on our merchandise site. And then
They're
the other thing
also, Mark, for those who do Audible, they are on Audible as well. And that can be gotten on Amazon or whatever Audible things there are.
that's right. That's right. And someday there'll be a book 3.
Yeah, and Audible book 2.
That's right. I talked to Mitch Brisker this week. He's having a difficult time recording his. He's been doing it for several weeks. It's not easy for it to do, I guess. But yeah, he's been working on his, getting it recorded and everything. Anyway, so I just wanted to mention a couple of things here. Please subscribe to our channel. We really appreciate everybody who watches and subscribes. It helps the YouTube algorithm if you subscribe. Push the video out to other people who may not, have any interest in Scientology, but are interested in other abuse and cults, things like that. So please subscribe. It doesn't cost anything. And also, Janis, what do they need to do with the like button?
Rock slam the like button.
That's right. And then if you have any questions or have any comments, please ask in the comments question section down below. We check them all the time and we answer them. And we really appreciate all the participation from people. If you would like to donate to our channel, you can buy us a coffee. There's a link in the description down below. Just click on that link and you can donate to us by buying coffee. And we, again, appreciate any of the support. Really, the money that we get just goes back into the channel. But we would appreciate that if you're interested in donating. Okay. And also, if you've want to buy any other merchandise or whatever, just go to our store. We've got shirts, hoodies, mugs, books. Koala Calm is available there. And anyway, just go down there and you can click on that, and it makes it very easy to do. Janis, why don't you tell everybody what we've got coming up here?
Yeah, we have a continuation with Sandy Holman coming up next week. We will also be doing a live soon with Kerry and Scott Campbell to continue their whole free wins series, but this time we'll do it with a live so people can actually join in the chat and ask them any questions they want to do. We're going to do a live also with Roger Weller, and then I've got, other people, Louise and Holly and Carl and all sorts of other people lined up. And I've also lined up several people for us to do the Madeira Rock Festival. So that's going to be a lot of fun, but it's a lot for me to try and organize and try and figure out exactly how am I going to do this. So, but we will have that coming up.
We're also going to do your auction off of your free wins merchandise or t-shirts and stuff. We just haven't figured out exactly how to do it or where the money's going to go. We've got to work that out. But yeah, so that's coming up as well.
Yes, I took the photographs of all of the shirts for you the other day, but we just got to figure out how to do the auction on TV, on YouTube. TV.
Fantastic. Well, anyway, we hope everybody has a great day. We hope you enjoyed the video. And unless you've got anything else, Janis, I'll go ahead and we'll say bye-bye to everybody. Bye-bye.
Have a great day. Goodbye.
Bye.